Have you ever met a woman who looked at you like you barely existed, and yet something in her energy felt unfinished? Like the story between you wasn't closed, just paused? Maybe she was polite. Maybe she was distant. Maybe she told you directly she wasn't interested. And yet, part of you sensed that attraction isn't always as simple as yes or no. It moves, it shifts, it evolves. So here's the real question. Is it actually possible to make a woman desire you even if she's not interested right now? Not through tricks, not through manipulation, not through pretending to be someone you're not, but through understanding the deeper psychology of desire. Because attraction is rarely about surface traits. It's about emotional experience. It's about perception. It's about how someone feels in your presence. And if you understand that, everything changes. Now, before we go any further, we need to establish something clearly. This is not about chasing someone who has firmly rejected you. It's not about ignoring boundaries. It's not about playing games or overriding someone's autonomy. If a woman says no in a clear and consistent way, you respect that. Period. This conversation is about growth, about awareness, about recognizing that attraction is dynamic. People reassess, emotions evolve, perception shifts, and often what feels like she's not interested is actually she hasn't experienced you in a way that activates desire yet. There's a difference. We're talking about becoming the kind of presence that naturally creates curiosity, tension, and emotional pull. Not because you forced it, but because you understood the emotional mechanics at play. Now let's go deeper. Attraction isn't logical, it's psychological. A woman doesn't desire a man because he checks boxes on paper. She desires him because of how he makes her feel about herself. That's the core. Have you ever noticed how someone can objectively be good-looking, successful, stable, and still feel flat? No spark, no magnetism? That's because desire lives in the nervous system, not the resume. Desire is triggered by contrast, by unpredictability, by emotional stimulation, by subtle tension between comfort and uncertainty. Here's where it gets interesting. When a woman says she's not interested, most men react in one of two ways. They either withdraw completely and disappear with resentment, or they double down and try harder. More compliments, more availability, more proof. But this is where most people get it wrong. Trying harder often signals emotional need, and emotional need reduces desire. Desire requires space. It requires the feeling that something is unfolding, not being handed over. This doesn't mean you become cold or detached. It means you stop trying to convince and start embodying. Let's talk about emotional value. Every human being has unmet emotional needs: validation, novelty, safety, excitement, status, belonging. When someone meets one of those needs in a subtle, unexpected way, attraction begins to shift. If she's not interested, it usually means one of two things. Either she doesn't feel emotional stimulation around you, or she feels no contrast between you and the emotional environment she already has. Pay attention to that word, contrast. If you show up exactly like everyone else, her nervous system stays neutral. If you agree with everything, praise her constantly, respond instantly, and orbit around her energy, there's no polarity. Desire often activates when there's a slight edge of unpredictability, when she's not entirely sure where she stands, when your attention feels earned rather than automatic. This is subtle but powerful. Eye contact, for example. Most men either stare intensely in an attempt to dominate or avoid eye contact when they feel uncertain. Neither creates tension, but a slow, grounded gaze held a half-second longer than comfortable, followed by a calm shift of attention elsewhere, creates an unfinished loop in her mind. Her brain starts asking, "What was that?" Tone of voice matters. A man who speaks at a slightly slower pace, with pauses, with controlled breathing, signals composure. Composure signals internal security. Internal security triggers subconscious respect, and respect is a precursor to desire. Have you ever noticed how some men barely talk, yet the room leans toward them? It's not mystery for the sake of mystery, it's emotional containment. When a woman senses that you are not seeking approval from her, but are choosing interaction from a place of fullness, something changes. Now let's talk about attention. Attention is currency. If she believes she already has unlimited access to you, there's no urgency, no intrigue. But if your attention is focused, intentional, and slightly scarce, it becomes valuable. This doesn't mean ignoring her texts or playing childish games. It means you are busy building your own life. You are engaged in your own world. Your responses are thoughtful, not reactive. You don't over-explain yourself. You don't chase reassurance. Here's something most people overlook. When a woman says she's not interested, sometimes she means she doesn't feel chemistry. But chemistry isn't static. It can build through shared emotional spikes, novel experiences, playful tension, intellectual challenge. If every interaction you have is predictable small talk, desire never ignites. But introduce contrast. Tease lightly without insulting, disagree respectfully without hostility, change topics unexpectedly, shift from humor to depth, let silence linger instead of filling it nervously. Silence is powerful. In silence, anticipation grows. Now let's address mixed signals, because this is where many men get confused. She's distant one day and warm the next. She laughs at your jokes but says she's not looking for anything. She texts late at night but keeps things casual in public. What's happening there? Internal conflict. Part of her may feel attraction, another part may fear vulnerability, or she may enjoy the emotional validation without fully committing to desire. This push-pull dynamic often reflects attachment patterns. If she has avoidant tendencies, she'll move toward intensity and then retreat. If she's anxious, she'll seek closeness but test stability. But here's the key. You don't chase the pull, you stay steady. When she moves closer, you remain grounded. When she moves away, you don't panic. Emotional consistency is magnetic because it creates safety without suffocation. Hot-cold behavior often reveals someone testing emotional security. Not consciously, but subconsciously. Will he react? Will he chase? Will he become insecure? If you pass that test by staying calm, your perceived value increases. Now let's look at situational contrasts. Public versus private behavior tells you everything. In public, she may act neutral to protect social image. In private, her body language softens, her voice lowers. She asks more personal questions. Her eye contact deepens. Texting versus in-person is another contrast. Over text, she may keep things short. But in person, she leans in, mirrors your posture, laughs more freely. Pay attention to breathing patterns. When someone is attracted, their breathing subtly synchronizes with the person they're engaged with. Their pupils dilate slightly, their shoulders relax. When others enter the room, does her body shift toward you or away from you? These micro movements reveal more than words. But here's the part that matters most. You cannot manufacture genuine desire through tactics alone. You must become emotionally compelling. That means developing depth, humor, purpose, boundaries, self-respect. When you have options, even if unspoken, your energy changes. Scarcity creates value, but authentic abundance creates magnetism. And there's something deeper. Sometimes the reason she's not interested is simply incompatibility. And maturity means accepting that without internal collapse. Because paradoxically, when you detach from needing her validation, you often become more attractive. Desire grows in space. If she feels you're trying to pull her toward you, she instinctively resists. If she feels you're walking your own path and inviting her to join, curiosity awakens. But integrity is everything. If she's in a committed relationship, you respect it. If she's given a firm boundary, you honor it. Real confidence doesn't override consent, it recognizes it. Long-term consequences matter. If you manipulate attraction, you may gain short-term attention, but lose long-term respect. And respect is what sustains desire over time. The most powerful shift you can make is internal. Instead of asking, how do I make her want me? Ask, how do I become the kind of man whose presence naturally evokes curiosity? That's where your power is. Desire is emotional tension combined with safety. It's unpredictability balanced with steadiness. It's intensity paired with restraint. And here's something most people never realize. Sometimes when a woman says she's not interested, she's reacting to who you were in that moment, not who you are capable of becoming. Growth changes perception, energy changes perception, confidence changes perception, but chasing never does. So if you take anything from this, let it be this. Focus on building internal stability. Expand your world. Strengthen your voice. Sharpen your humor. Develop real empathy. Maintain mystery not through silence, but through depth. When she senses that there's more beneath the surface, when she feels slightly uncertain but emotionally safe, when your presence disrupts her emotional baseline just enough to create contrast, desire begins to breathe. And even if she ultimately doesn't choose you, you'll have evolved into someone whose energy attracts naturally. That's psychological power. If this opened your perspective, stay with this journey, like the video, subscribe, and continue exploring the deeper layers of human behavior. Subscribe